Hello, everyone. It's Saturday. It's Chat with Mack. We're glad to have you joining us. Thank you to everyone that listens to our little show here. We really appreciate it. Please subscribe, continue to subscribe, continue to give us feedback. And for those of you that are new to what we do, welcome, welcome, welcome. Afternoon. I almost said good morning, Nadine, but good afternoon, Nadine.
Yeah, it is afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon. How you doing?
Good. I'm rested, feeling better. So I'm looking forward to the new week. And man, we are what, a week away from December? Jeez.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
means,
So people say that as you get older, time goes faster.
good
It's not
Lord,
just that. As you get older, time does go faster, but also as you get closer to the end of the year, time goes faster.
man, like it's flying. There's 2 weeks will be in December, another what month? It'll be Christmas, and then it's 2023. It's like that. So
Yeah.
it brings to question something that um I call people, or I call businesses on a regular. That's my job. And coming close to the end of the year, what I've been hearing a lot of is, yeah, we're okay, no one's complaining, all this other stuff. And I'm like, man, how often are you really checking in? Because what I noticed, and I think you've really brought this to my attention when I first started, is that for a lot of business owners, they have kind of a hands-off approach when it comes to IT. So they figure if people aren't clamoring or people aren't complaining, they think that everything is good. But the question is, are you sure? What are some questions that you need to ask your in-house provider, your MSP, just to make sure, especially coming to the end of the year, you're probably doing a lot of planning. What are some things that need to be talked about? And I thought, maybe, you can give some light on that, being that, this is something you do day in and day out.
Yeah. So interesting question. So one of the things that I see a lot is you get that false sense of satisfaction when people are not complaining.
Yeah.
So if a lot of people are complaining, then of course it's noisy. You want to clear that noise up somehow, and then it becomes top of mind. However, when people are not coming to top management with issues on a routine basis, then top management is thinking, hey, everything is good, because part of the problem with IT is a lot of times upper management is not very technical, right? They're very good business people. They're very good with numbers and facts and figures, but not when it comes to IT. A lot of management people don't even know what metrics to measure to get a good handle on how their IT is performing, right? So if you cannot measure something, how can you control it? You can't. In my mind, it's a proven fact that if you cannot measure something, you cannot control it.
That's true.
So the question then becomes is, how is management controlling their IT, making the right decisions, making the right business decisions when they can't even measure? They don't even know what metrics to measure.
Yeah.
And that's where I come in, right? So when you're talking to people and you're saying, hey, this is what we do, and this is why you want to meet with Nadeem. And then when I go and they tell you, oh no, everything is fine, but yeah, let's set aside 30, 40 minutes. Let me talk to Nadeem, since he's been doing this for over 25 years.
Yeah.
And when I go in and talk to them and I ask them a few questions, and it kind of opens a whole new door. It's almost like opening that closet that is full of just junk. Your whole house is neat and clean, and I open that one door, which is that IT closet, and it's just all junk falls out. And then they're like, whoa, and then they're caught by surprise, and some of them, you can even see it in their eyes, where they get a little frustrated with the way their normal things are running, because they were relying on their current support provider to give them the right metrics to be able to make the right decisions, but nobody came up to them and said, hey, by the way, these are the metrics that you need to measure. If it's below this threshold, we have a problem. We need to keep this number within these thresholds. Hey, this is what other competitors in our industry are doing. We want to be in this range right here, not in this range right here. They're not telling them any of this. So upper management is kind of like making a decision, making a business decision without having all the facts, or without even knowing what facts matter. It's so bad that a lot of times they're, and so when you run into a situation like that, what does management do? They just stay with a non-decision. So their decision is a non-decision. So that's what they do, is they don't make a decision. They just keep letting things roll as they are. And that's when, those kind of conversations I love to have, because that really shows management a whole different side of IT where it is measurable, right? So in their minds, IT is not measurable. And when I show them that it is measurable and this is what you need to measure, that really tells them that they can make IT decisions without actually knowing IT. So you don't have to know IT to be able to make the right business decisions regarding IT. And that's where it's at, is when you can get to that point, now you can intentionally steer your ship in the right direction. Without it, you're rudderless.
Do you think there is a bit of hesitancy with business owners when it comes to asking certain questions as far as IT? Because, there's another thing I get where I'm not the technical person, something that you brought up. I would get that, I'm not a real technical guy and all that. That to me, and I'm glad we're talking about this. Okay, even if you're not the most technical person, I get it, great. But it seems a little, how can I say this respectfully, haphazard not to at least have some type of insight into what's going on as far as your infrastructure is concerned. Do you think it is because some people are like, that's just not my forte, or?
That's not what it is. I think what the problem is they don't even know what questions to ask of their IT people.
Yeah.
So it'll be one thing if I knew what questions to ask and I'd go and ask them. But if I don't even know what questions to ask, I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
How can I know what I don't know when I don't know it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's that, catch-22 where that's what we get caught up in. And that's where in every field, that's where the expert comes into play. It's the expert's job to bring their subject matter down to a level that anybody can understand. If the expert cannot bring it down to a level where anybody can understand, that means the expert themselves does not understand it well enough. Right? So if if there was somebody who builds cars and if they cannot explain how they build cars to any person walking down the street, then they don't understand that process well enough themselves. And it doesn't matter if you're building rocket ships or if you're building widgets. It's the same thing. If you are very well versed in your specific task, what you do, then you will be able to explain it to a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of failure, I don't think the failure happens with management. I think the failure happens in between. The failure happens between when the IT expert, which is the IT admin or MSP or whoever it is not even telling management what metrics to measure and why those metrics are important. What does a certain metric mean to them? Like a lot of times, we measure, for example, reactive hours per endpoint, per month. And it's like, well, it's one thing to measure it, but it's another thing to explain to management, what does that mean? The more hours per endpoint you are spending on support, that means the more issues you are having. That tells you how reactive or proactive you are. So when you explain it that way, now that metric starts to make sense. The lower that metric, the more proactive you are. The higher that metric, the less proactive you are. And then we also go a step further and we say, okay, that metric has to be less than 1.0. If it's less than 1.0, you're in a good spot. The lower that number, the better it is. The higher that number, the worse it is. And we measure the same metrics internally ourselves. So we measure these, we compare it with, so we're a member of a worldwide peer group, and we compare these metrics with all other MSPs around the world. Our goal is we start to compete then with each other, right? And that's where the happy place is, because we want to have that REM, that reactive hours per month, to be lower than the next MSP, right? Because that tells us how efficient and proactive we are, which is a good thing. So, but if you don't even know what metric to measure, how are you going to measure it?
Yeah.
So there it is. Talk to your IT admins, talk to your MSPs, hold them accountable. But how can you hold them accountable if you don't even know what metrics to measure? So find out what metrics to measure, why those metrics are important, and then start to hold them accountable for those metrics.
Is there, with the time that we have, this is something that came to mind, and you just actually recently, it's funny, you recently had this happen with somebody that you met with. It felt like she didn't really know what questions to ask her MSP, just to make sure that, forget the way you termed it, but I think she was asking you for a list of questions to ask her MSP, and I guess you were kind of giving them, based on the answers, whether or not they kind of knew what they were doing, or they were just giving them just a base model, or just giving them the bare minimum. Just real quick, what are maybe 3, maybe 4 questions that are important to ask your MSP? And let's say you're in the end of the year and you're thinking, okay, we need to look out there. What are some questions that they need to ask?
So instead of 3, I'll make it very easy for you.
Okay.
Ask them just one question.
Nice.
Right? Ask them, and this will tell you how well they understand the process. So ask them just one question. What are the 2 most important roles in your MSP practice? Mm-hmm. That's all you need to ask. What are the 2 most important roles?
I actually know this answer. I've been listening, so I know what that is. That's good.
So ask them that, and that will tell you how mature that MSP is. That will tell you what is important to them as an MSP. Do they want to be a reactive MSP or a proactive MSP? That explains a lot. And that's really what I would ask if I was going to, outsource our IT and talk to an MSP. I would just ask them simply, what are the 2 most important roles in your MSP practice? And then see what they say. And whatever they say, ask them why. Why are those important? What does that mean to you? And we've done a few webinars or videos around, the different roles, and every MSP out there has. They may call it something totally different, but it doesn't matter what you call it. The role is still there. It has to be there. Otherwise, you can't run IT operations, right? So I would ask them about those 2 roles. What are the 2 most important roles? Now, it will be surprising. A lot of MSPs out there, when I talk to them and they say, oh, yeah, one of the most important roles that we have is the support desk. We run the support desk very, very well. We can take care of 100 tickets per day, and we can, resolve tickets in X amount of time. And that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. That tells me they don't even understand the industry they're in, right? Because 100 tickets a day, that's a lot of tickets. My question would be, why do you have that many tickets? So number one, they're focusing on the wrong role. They're thinking it's the most important role when it's not. And then they're taking pride in having so many tickets. That means they're not being proactive.
Something's
They're being
broken
reactive
in that process. Yeah.
Yeah. So and these kind of things, you can't just do it overnight. That's what really differentiates us from a lot of other MSPs out there, because we can go out and say, hey, our reactive hours per endpoint per month is 0.2. And a lot of other MSPs, a lot of them don't even track that number, but some of them who track it, they're like 0.2. Wow, how are you doing this? And it's like, yeah, we've been doing this a long time. That's when your processes are kind of bolted down, buttoned up. You have very well laid out processes and controls. That's when you get to 0.2%. And everybody wants to get to, that low REM value. But I've seen MSPs that are like, 1, 1.2, 1.3, somewhere in that range. That's a very noisy MSP. I wouldn't want to work in an MSP like that, because that tells me that there's always tickets coming in. Everybody's kind of running around trying to solve tickets, and you solve a ticket, but then it's not solved. It comes back. It's just chaos.
Yeah.
That's not where we want to be.
That's not, yeah. No.
So hopefully, that helps you out. Ask one question when you're interviewing MSPs is, what are the 2 most important roles in your practice? And that will tell you a lot.
Yeah. And
if you don't know what those 2 roles are, go back and watch some of the MSP videos. We have a whole playlist for MSPs, and it talks about the roles and what they mean and how they relate to each other, and how they reduce the number of those reactive tickets.
Yeah.
So I think with that, Mack, we'll call it a day. Nice short 20-minute video. And everybody also, if you like the videos, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, because that really helps us out. That makes Google's or YouTube's algorithm learn what people like, and kind of offers those videos to other people who are looking and searching for these videos. So everybody have a great day, and be safe out there.
Be safe. Bye.